works of art. And so the interest was there, the curiosity was there. I was looking at my father's art and art that he had around the house from birth, probably. And I love to doodle, draw. So when I was in high school, um, I got a lot of encouragement, as I said, from Alexander Cooper and started
Mm-hmm.
developing a real passion for drawing the human figure. So it came naturally.
So was it? How would you describe your home though? Like that space with so many family members having similar interest. You know, was it like a competitive space in terms of creating the art? How would you describe that?
No, it wasn't competitive. My sister was the first. Jan was the first to decide that she wanted to do art. And my brother came to it a bit after me, although he's a little older. But there was never a competitive kind of attitude. It was very supportive, and got a lot of support from both parents when I decided that I wanted to do art. And throughout, it has never really been a competitive atmosphere. My son now does art, so that's the third generation, and we have learned to exist in our own space and support one another because it's not really about competing. It's about other than competing with
Mm-hmm.
yourself. It's about self discovery.
Mm-hmm. Your father studied art in London in the 50s when, you know, racism and discrimination was prevalent. How did
Mhm.
your father's teachings and philosophies influence the work that you do?
Oh, greatly, greatly. Um, he not just in England, but he studied extensively throughout Europe, and he studied a lot of the European masters. And you know, I got a lot of experience or a lot of the stories of life growing up in life in England during that time from both parents. And there was the negatives, the racial aspects, but also I got a lot of the positive aspects. So that was important. And I tended to focus more on the positive aspects of what they gathered from their experience in England and in Europe generally.
Mm-hmm. You attended the Jamaica School of Art. How did this period of your life prepared you for a successful career in sculpting?
Well, it's at the Jamaica School of Art, now the Edna Manley College, that I discovered sculpture.
Mm,
Drawing was my first love, and in high school, I was just drawing, paint, not really exploring color and painting. But I figured that I would probably move on to painting once I reached the art school. But at the art school, I discovered sculpture. Again, I had a very inspirational teacher in Christopher Gonzalez. And once I discovered sculpture, I decided that this is what I want to do. It was a very smooth and uh, inspiring transition from drawing to sculpture. So,
mm-hmm,
and I always had a fascination for sculpture. I thought it was incredible. Now that I am doing it and I can break it down,
mm-hmm.
it's not as, mystical as I thought it was. But at that time, I was very inspired by sculpture. I saw sculptures at the National Stadium by Alvin Marriott, and they inspired me. So that's where I found sculpture, and I got a good preparation for my ongoing career from teachers like George Rodney, um, Alexander Cooper again, Gonzalez, Gene Pearson. These were people who taught me at the school.
Do you remember your first sculpting job?
Job, meaning that I got paid for it.
Yes.
Uh, the first sculpture that I got paid for was a piece that I did as a student piece at the
Mm,
at the school. I did a wood carving, and the Cuban ambassador was touring the school, and the school bought it to give to the ambassador as a gift. So that was a great honor. So it was the
Wow.
first time I was paid for a piece of work, and first time my work was collected outside of family.
Hearing you talk about your journey so far, you mentioned a lot of persons who mentored you along the way, people that you look up to. How important is mentorship on the road to success?
Mentorship is very important. The environment you grew up in, the people that are there to guide you, is very important. That's why I don't think I could have made it to in football, because I don't think I had the mentorship to carry me to that level.
Mm.
Although I was very appreciative, because it was great in terms of building character. But having the right formula, the right influence, seeing the possibilities of what can be done. These things are important for youngsters to really harness their talents and to work hard when they can see, when they have a roadmap. They might have a dream but have no idea of how to get there, and this is when you know you'll see students become lackadaisical or not seeming to be motivated, because oftentimes they don't really have a roadmap of how to get to their destination. So mentorship is very key.
And you are your father's work. He is established. He's an established artist, but you his work did not overshadow Basil Watson. Like, what was your mindset, your thinking when you are on your own journey to ensure that you go out there and be great, as opposed to being walking in the footstep of your father's shadow? What was your thinking and mindset during that time?
Well, I would say that I walked in his footsteps in many ways, in that I learned a lot from him. But the way I calculate it is that I have a great resource to tap into, and a great resource to learn from and build from. So I never saw it as a negative. It was always a positive. If I had a choice, do I have a great artist as a father or do I not? I would take the great artist as a father every day, because it puts you further on the road. And
Mm-hmm.
I was never intimidated about anyone else's shadow. I always felt confident that I could cast my own shadow. And it might be larger or it might be smaller. Um, as long as I'm enjoying my journey, nothing else really counts.
Wow. Now, the process sometimes I would imagine includes, a model, deep observation, and having the ability to pay keen attention to details. Before you start sculpting, what do you look for when you are observing or studying a subject?
Well, I go through a period of or process of research. Drawing has been that medium that allows me to research and explore uh, what I want to sculpt. Usually, this is how I've developed my eye for movement, rhythm, detail, and the big picture versus the secondary pictures and so on. So it's usually drawing is that foundation, and I it allows me drawing allows me to see, and it develops my ability to see and observe a little deeper than on the surface. And once I explore through drawing, it leads me to how I want to compose a sculpture. Then in the sculpture again, I am almost constantly drawing in terms of uh, allowing the sculpture to evolve, um, sometimes in minor details, sometimes in major forms. So that's really how my process works. And I tell people that drawing is my secret weapon in terms of the success of my sculpture.
Wow. How does your martial arts background help your sculpting as well? Because I presume
Mm.
you would take something from that into your sculpting as well.
One of the things martial arts taught me is that everything is about character building. Uh, whether I play football, whether I do martial arts, whether I do sculpture, art, it's all about character building. So you learn one to give 100%, and it teaches honest effort, work ethic, consistency, uh, attention to basic foundational aspects, and so on. So it has helped to keep me when I am under pressure. Even competing as a martial artist, you learn once you go in the ring 100% focus. You learn to be calm. You learn to face obstacles even when you are fearful of your whatever, whether it's an opponent or whether it's whatever task you take on to maintain focus. So it has helped a lot in terms of, especially my character building. I'm not hearing you.
Um,
Yes. Yeah.
how about now? Are you hearing me now?
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, okay, awesome. So, you mentioned, paying attention to detail, and
Hmm.
I've seen your work up close and personal. We're gonna get to the Dr. Martin Luther King statue that is here in Atlanta, Georgia. But would you then say that your art is a representation of who you are when you sculpt?
Oh yeah. Oh, most definitely. And this is why you take defeat and success, because basic at the end of the day you are expressing yourself, and I have nothing else to give but myself. You take it or leave it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't get too down when things don't work, and don't get too high when things do work. you know um, you always have to keep grounded. But yes, it's an expression of self, because uh, I am trying to express how I view life, and the way I have developed or decided that I want to uh, deal with life. So for me, my art tries to look to the light, to the positive aspects of life, and I try to inspire people to the positives in life. Um, so I would say, I definitely endorse that it's a reflection of my personality, and I think everybody works towards their own personality, their own character, their propensity for detail or not, how they view things, they will be drawn to it. So yeah.
And even though it is a reflection of your personality, you have also still managed to capture the essence of the person that you're sculpting as well, because you've worked with the likes of Usain Bolt, Shelley and Fraser Price, and Asafa Powell, among others. How did their personalities assisted you in creating sculptures of them?
Well, what learning to drawing, sculpting, even martial arts, football, what it has developed is an ability to see and understand people a little bit better. So you learn to tap into the personalities and characters of the my subjects, whether it's so-called ordinary person or a private citizen, or whether it's a famous personality, through observation of uh, the language of the person's body, how they carry themselves, physical details. teaches you a lot about their personality, their character, and so on. So this is one of the things that doing art over the years has helped to develop in me, that ability to see a little deeper into personalities. So when I'm faced with doing a famous personality, that ability is applied. So for let's say the statues of Usain Bolt, Asafa Powell, Veronica Campbell, Shelley Ann Fraser, we were always on the same page in terms of how they saw themselves and how I saw them. So, I feel very positive and good about that. Even from before the sculpture started, we were on the same page, and I could understand how they saw themselves and
And this is through
also
meeting
how
and
the community saw them.
communicating with them. This is through
But
meeting them, like having conversations with them
yeah,
to
well,
meet.
I had conversations with them before I met them in terms
Mm-hmm.
of their public figures. So you see
Mm-hmm.
them interacting. And then I did have the privilege of meeting each one. Uh, Asafa Powell and Veronica Campbell actually came to my studio and sat for me. Um, so, you know, it's encouraging when you feel that your view of them coincides with their view of themselves, and in meeting them, it rings true. So that's very encouraging.
Have you ever unveiled a piece and met with, like a negative reaction? It wasn't what they were expecting, and how did you deal with that?
Uh, um, Fortunately, I would say no, I haven't really had that experience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I have had people who have had uh, negative
Comments.
statements, comments about my work, and you know, I respect it as their opinion. I will listen to it and see if there is some truth in it. If I don't see anything to take from it, then I dismiss it. I don't expect everybody to be 100% in line with my work. But the key thing is once I satisfy myself, then I can do no more. I am not perfect, but I am perfect in my effort to uh, do 100% or do all I can do.
Now, you were commissioned by the city of Atlanta, Georgia, to do a statue of the great Martin Luther King Jr. And this 12-foot statue is a historical landmark that stands while several Confederate monuments across the US are being torn down. As a black man, how significant was it for you to sculpt Dr. King?
Well, as a human being, I have, from Jamaica, growing up, when he was assassinated in '69, I would have been 11. Um, and, the civil rights movement into the '70s, um, his struggles helped to shape a lot of my ideas about life and his philosophy and his speeches. So from that age and in Jamaica, you know, the relationship with Martin Luther King had begun. Um, what is even more amazing is that my father was commissioned to do a
Mm-hmm.
painting by Spelman College here in Atlanta. He was commissioned in the late '60s, shortly after his death. Um, so that relationship with the philosophy of Martin Luther King has always been there. I've always seen him as one of the greatest human beings in terms of what he achieved, especially of the last century. And so to get the opportunity to sculpt him at any time was fantastic. And then it probably became a perfect storm in that when I was commissioned, shortly after being commissioned, and shortly after starting the sculpture, we had the George Floyd incident, and the whole cultural atmosphere revolved a lot around racism. A lot of the blankets were being pulled off of the racial tensions that were there. And so it it evolved during a time when I would say a perfect storm. And it became even more significant that it was being put up during this time. So sometimes things I wouldn't. Well, there's a lot of great fortune in the timing of it. So I have great hopes that it will make an impact.
Absolutely. Is this the biggest statue that you have ever sculpted? And how long did it take you?
It was the biggest physically. I had sculpted one and a third thereabout before. This is twice life size, so it was considerably bigger. It took up the full extremities of my studio.
Wow.
If it was any bigger, it wouldn't fit in my studio. And so, and then the psychological aspect of doing Martin Luther King, who is an international personality, I would venture to say bigger than Usain Bolt. And
Mm-hmm.
Miss Lou, he is large. So there was a lot of physical pressure and a lot of emotional um, pressure as well. And it took the sculpting itself took probably about a year to do the large scale model. But I had been designing. I had been so the process in total took almost 2 years
Wow.
to completion.
How did you deal with the physical pressure and just thinking about the significance of what you're doing and what it meant for people right around the world and the pressure that was on you to ensure that the perfection of it? How did you deal with that?
Well, I would start with saying that after I installed the sculpture, I slept for about almost 2 months. I had
Wow.
I had very little motivation to work. It was like I was holding my breath for 2 years. Um, I didn't realize it. I was just going. You go to bed with it. You wake up with it. You wake up sometimes at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning thinking how to resolve issues. Um, but you just keep going. When you're in the middle of the race, you don't have time to be tired. Um, so at the end of it, when it was up, uh, I was wondering if it was COVID because it was a little bit before COVID. So I'm saying, oh no, 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 I don't have
What
COVID. I hope it's
happened?
not COVID because I had no energy. I was exhausted.
Wow.
I had no drive to go into my studio. So I realized that it took a tremendous toll emotionally because you're keyed up. There's a lot of pressure, and it can be basically it can be the end of your career in terms of public work. I would then have to
Mm-hmm.
find another way to express myself, another way to I guess channel my creative expressions in terms of sculpting other things. But it was a big pivotal moment for my career.
Well, Mr. Watson, don't go anywhere. We're going to go for a quick break. So listen up. Your top draw dollars, pick two, pick three, pick four, hot pick, and cashpot lunchtime draws up next.
You are what you drink. Your premium. Enjoy Heineken specials at your favorite bars. Drink responsibly. Socialize responsibly. The Time by Heineken is
It is now 12:58.
You contribute directly to Jamaica's national development when you pay your customs duties. Let's all do our part in keeping the wheels of our economy turning. The temperature by the Jamaica Customs Agency is
It is now 36 degrees Celsius in Ocherius.
When me use Island Fresh with aloe vera, it make me skin feel so much smoother. So if you want to feel better and smell fresher, use Island Fresh with aloe vera.
manufactured by Island Products 9340666.
The time is
It is now 1 o'clock. We're standing by, so listen up. Your top draw dollars, pick 2, pick 3, pick 4, hot pick, and cash pot lunchtime draws up next.
2021. I'm Sydney and welcome to this afternoon's Supreme Ventures live game draw. Now before we begin, here's a quick look at our mid-morning winning numbers. Please remember all live draws are being supervised by the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Commission and observed by the independent auditing firm PwC. Now let's put some money in a your top draw. This afternoon's jackpot is now $600,000, so here are the winning top draw numbers. And first up for top draw, we have 3. Following the number 3, we have 14. And coming down, it is number 11. What's next? We have 22. And the final number for $600,000 is 10. And now let's pick your play with our dollars game. I do hope you're feeling lucky. First up, we have 4. Coming down slowly but surely, we have the number 12. Next up, it's the number 9. And following 9, we have 27. What's next? It's 24. And following 24, we have 14. And we are halfway there, so here comes the number 19. And what's next? Here it comes, and it is 36. And here comes number 8. Following 8, we have 22. And following 22, it's the number 10. And wrapping things up this afternoon is a count up to the number 11. Now for some easy winnings with our Pick 2 game. Let's go. First up for Pick 2, we have 19. Our second Pick 2 number is 23. So once again, the winning Pick 2 numbers are 19 and 23. Up next, you can play it 3 ways. It's our Pick 3 game. First up for Pick 3, and it is the number 3. Our second Pick 3 number is 5, and our third and final Pick 3 number this afternoon is 7. So once again, the winning Pick 3 numbers are 3, 5, and the number 7. It's now time to turn up your winnings, so get ready for Pick 4. And the first Pick 4 number is 2. Our second Pick 4 number is 6. Our third Pick 4 number, what will it be? 7. And our fourth and final Pick 4 number is 3. So once again, the winning Pick 4 numbers are 2, 6, 7, and the number 3. Now it's easy for wins, so let's heat things up with Hot Pick. And the balls are bubbling up. And the number 5 has been selected. So congratulations to all our Hot Pick winners. Again, the winning number is 5. Now get on track because Cash Pot Money Train are run and every week is a mystery prize. This week you can win $305 for every $10 winning Cash Pot bet. So board the train and collect the winnings. Let's get ready to play our Cash Pot game for Thursday, September 2, 2021. Now you live to play it, but can you win it? Get ready to be a big Cash Pot winner. And let's see what the winning Cash Pot number will be. And this afternoon's winning Cash Pot number is 9. Congratulations to all our Cash Pot winners. Again, the winning number is 9. It's now time for some mega winnings. Good luck. And what will it be this afternoon? And a white ball has been selected. Go Mega 6 times per day for more chances to win big. Again, the winning Cash Pot number is 9. The lucky mark is cow. And a white ball has been selected for both Cash Pot and Hot Pick. Now let's take a look at this afternoon's winning numbers. Congratulations to everyone who won. Please join us again at 3 p.m. for more games you love to play. I'm Sydney. Have a supreme afternoon.
Hope you were a big winner. Play your favorite Supreme Ventures games every day and tune in for our live draw 6 times a day at 8:30 a.m., 10:30 a.m., 1 p.m., 3 p.m., 5 p.m., and 8:25 p.m. on this station. Supreme Ventures, making winners every day.
That was the lunchtime dollars pick two, pick three, pick four, hot pick, and cash pot draws. Congratulations to all of today's winners. Join us again at 3 p.m. for another chance to win in hot pick and cash pot special pot draws.
With a CLK mortgage, home ownership is a breeze. Get rates as low as 6.99% and up to 40 years to repay. The time by CLK is...
It is now 4 minutes after 1 o'clock.
Did you know that 85% of brain growth occurs during the first 5 years? Alacta Plus is the only formulation with 35 important nutrients and the recommended levels of DHA, an important nutrient which helps support your child's cognitive development at this important stage of growth. Alacta Plus. Nourish their incredible power to learn.
This product is not a substitute for breast milk. Cognitive development depends on different factors.
All right. Good afternoon and welcome back to those of you who are just joining us. You're inside the Easy Scan King on your 107s. And right now it's all about Road to Success, the journey. And today we are on the journey with none other than BASIL Watson, CD. And it's been fantastic so far. So welcome back, Mr. Watson.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So you have worked from the likes of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to Marcus Garvey, Sam Sharp, and even Nanny of the Maroons. You have sculpted some great men and women in our history. Did you start out with an agenda to say immortalize through art or great black men and women?
No, that was not my beginning agenda. My agenda was just to enjoy drawing the human figure. And I sought every opportunity to just draw the human figure, different people, friends, no enemies. But, you know, I just love drawing. And then once I started sculpting the human figure, exploring, developing my knowledge and expression of the human figure. But I always had a passion or idea that I would love to have my work in the public domain. So, you know, I saw, for instance, Arthur Wynne's statue at the National Stadium as a youngster when I was going to the stadium for sports and events. And I was, oh, wow, it would be so fantastic to have one sculpture out there. But I never really thought it possible until time, the opportunity presented itself to go after it. So from drawing and sculpting any and everybody, it gave me the ability to seek to sculpt famous personalities, do works that could go out in the public, or just express ideas using the human figure. So not all my public sculptures are of personalities. They are thematic with, various concepts. So it was something that I slowly grew into and realized that the possibility was there, the need was there, because in Jamaica, Marriott had died. I didn't see any sculptor filling that void. And I said, hey, I possibly can do this. And opportunities presented itself. And more, I'm being seen as a person who can fill that void, I suppose.
And how are you able, though, to capture and reflect the likeness, the emotions, and the strength, and even capture the spirit of the subjects that you do, when especially for a Martin Luther King, Marcus Garvey, and Paul Bogle, and Sam Sharp?
Well, when you're doing it on a private level, you're learning to see and capture various models that are not necessarily public figures, but you are learning about the human, the body, the anatomy, how the body works, how it expresses itself, body language. You're learning that sculpture is not necessarily an anatomy lesson. It's more about sending a message. So you learn how to choose and select things that will send various messages. So it's a learning process. It's continuous work. Um, at one stage, I wasn't getting public commissions. I was just sculpting ordinary people and sculpting them in various states. My subjects, their emotions changed from day to day. So you learn to observe that they come in today bubbling and full of energy. They come in tomorrow not so bubbly, and so on. And you learn to see these nuances, and you have the choice. Once you can see it, you can choose. And a sculpture might, express something bubbly, or it might express something more contemplative, and so on. So when there's the time for me to express concepts for public sculpture, then you have a vocabulary, a repertoire that you can delve into. So it's hard work, and it's accumulation of years of work.
Mm-hmm. And like you mentioned with public sculptures, there is also that risk depending on the outcome of it. But do you find that you enjoy creating public sculptures as opposed to, private pieces? And is the
Well,
adrenaline different?
there is a different energy. There are differences. It has its pluses in that when I'm doing a private work, I'm sponsoring it. I am the client, so to speak. I make all the decisions, and the work can go whichever way. Uh, Doing a public work, I have a client that I have to fulfill, not just the person who is paying for it, but the public as well. So you're deciding, do you want to send uplifting messages, or are you exploring something that is more um, not as uplifting? So you have these parameters. The stress of doing work for the public is different. Um, you have to be cognizant of the client and the public. So there's a different energy. My preference is to just do my own thing. It satisfies me, but the public work and the public commissions have a good economic side to it as well. So it relieves certain stresses, and it affords me to do my own private work as well.
Mm-hmm. You are one of 4 artists shortlisted for the 1 million Windrush Monument in London. Briefly explain the concept behind your compelling design.
Well, the Windrush Monument Windrush Generation Monument. Uh, all the 4 artists are connected to the Windrush experience in some way. And I am understanding even more deeply how I am connected. My parents went to England in the early years of the Windrush generation in the early 50s. They actually met on their way to England. My brother was born there. I was conceived there, although my mother went back to Jamaica to have me. And then after I was born, I went back to England, lived for probably 3 to 4 years before the family in total came back to Jamaica. So it connects a lot of the dots for me in terms of stories that I would hear from my parents. Um, uh, my mother on one side as a housewife with 2 young mother, my father on the other side, whose attention was more on his art and studying art and the development of his career and so on. So I got these pictures that were random and scattered, and this Windrush Generation Monument is bringing a lot of these pictures together and giving me a deeper understanding of my own family history. So I have focused on the family the father, mother, child, and the aspirations of the family, the cultural aspects that they carried with them. So my design has two major components: the family and the suitcases that they are standing on. And those suitcases came to me from the great radio program Dulcimina. I don't know the exact name, but Dulcimina comes to town. That's what we used to call it. And Dulcimina came with her suitcase, and that grip suitcase, cardboard box almost, became known as the Dulcimina. And I had one under my bed. And it has become iconic, especially in the Jamaican or Caribbean community. That suitcase had everything that Dulcimina needed. Whenever there was any problem, she would go into her suitcase and come out with a solution. So it represents the culture that you carry with you. So this immigrant family is climbing on the strength of these suitcases, these Dulcimina suitcases. So that's the basic composition for my submission for the Windrush Generation Monument.
And to see this design, you can check out Mr. Watson's Instagram page. It's basil.sculpture on Instagram. So you can scroll through and look at it. Really, really brilliant. What inspired you to do a bust of the late civil rights leader and congressman, John Lewis?
I just found him very inspirational in his demeanor, in his calm nature, all the things he has done as a civil rights activist over the years. And there was no hoopla about this man. He was very down to earth, very humble. And he also had a very sculpturesque kind of face. So I was inspired, and I had met him maybe 12 years ago, and learned more about him since I met him and how remarkable he is. And I always thought that he, also because of his humble nature and what he had done, he deserved a monument. And I'm sure many monuments will be made of him. But I wanted to sculpt him. So before he died, and he was sick, and the expectation is that he wouldn't last long, I said, I am going to do a sculpture of him for my own pleasure and just for myself to honor him. So I did the bust of John Lewis, and it was successful, I would think, and it has gained a lot of attention. But it was a very spontaneous. It happened very quickly because the idea was marinating for years, I would think. And then when he became ill, I said, let's do it. And it happened very quickly.
Now, you have so many creations, and I'm sure, each piece, like we would have uncovered so far, has its own story. But is there a piece that you are connected to and more connected to than others, and why?
As you say, each piece has its story. Strange things happen. For instance, Martin Luther King, I found it a great honor and very amazing that my father was commissioned to sculpt him. And this is, that would be 30, 50 years later, I am being commissioned to sculpt him. During the sculpting process, strange things happened. Like when I was sculpting the dove, it was 2 birds flew into my studio.
Oh, wow.
And then 2 weeks later, literally sculpting the dove with my hands in the clay, sculpting the dove. A dove walks into my studio, walks around, looks around, and then He spent probably 5, 10 minutes. Then he flew out. I haven't seen him again. It never happened before. It never happened since.
Wow.
So, it's strange, but so there are stories behind each piece. The Miss Lou I find very satisfying. I like the idea that it is in a rural town in Jamaica where ordinary people are interacting with it on a daily basis and how it helps to uplift the image and the spirit of Gordon Town. I visited once just on I was in the island and I said, let me go and see Miss Lou not long after. And I went up there and there were some teachers from the school taking photographs in front of the sculpture. So that sort of interaction, how ordinary
Mm-hmm.
people from the community interact with it and how it uplifts the spirit of the community is very satisfying. So each sculpture has its own little
Energy.
anecdote. Yeah.
Yeah. Listening to you, you're very calm, positive, and, sure about what you want, what you're about, and what you stand for. Your father, as you mentioned, was instrumental in helping to shape the man that you are. Share with us one key life lesson you have imparted to your own son.
Oh, um, I, I tell my children that um, my father and his generation were given the mission to put a roof over their family's head, get an education, take care of their family. They weren't trained as leaders. Um, the current generation, they came back and many of them became leaders, but because they weren't trained as leaders, um, they struggled with the mantle of leadership, how to pass the baton or how to be leaders, how to um, be grateful for where they are and recognize their responsibilities and so on. So this generation, current generation, needs to prepare themselves from day one to be leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Owning a motor car or putting a roof over your head, um, feeding your family should no longer be an issue. That should be taken for granted. Uh, where we need to cast our mind is how do we become influential and positive leaders in our community. So this is what I try to impart to my children. The responsibility is greater than just um, feeding their family and putting a roof over their head, or you know, um, and so on.
And that is very, very sound advice. In 2016, you received the Order of Distinction Commander class from the government of Jamaica in recognition for your contributions in the field of art. Did you ever thought that sculpting would have gotten you a national award?
Uh, I had absolutely no such ambitions or idea that it would happen. Um, so when I was being offered it, I was um, really amazed that I was getting the offer. Uh, you know, I sculpt mainly or solely because I love doing it, not for any award or recognition or fame. What I'm grateful for in terms of sculpture is that it has allowed me to connect with paupers and princes, all the
Mm-hmm.
ordinary man and prime ministers and bishops, and so it has connected me with so many different types of people. Is willing to open the door for the artist, and that is what I appreciate most about my career.
And it's interesting that you said that because I can imagine, being a sculptor at your level is very financially viable. However, as we know, many aspiring artists have to do a lot of unpaid work to get notoriety. But based on your experience, at what point would you say an aspiring artist should draw the line and know the value of their work?
Well, I have been through it all. I have been to peaks
Mm,
and valleys. I have been married for 40 years, and my
wow.
wife doesn't like to say that. You know, I she provided for the family much of the time. So having a great partner helps a lot. Is tremendous. But I have it financially. It is always difficult. Um, so you know we are taught a skill, and we can use it in a commercial way. The difference is knowing when you're using it in a commercial way or when you're really exploring what you would consider to be your soul felt art. Um, but the business of art is a different animal all to itself. And I know for myself and other artists and many other artists, it's difficult to balance the two. You want to go to your creative process more than doing business and financial issues. Um, but you have to try and find that balance. But it's key to keep your mind on what you consider to be your soul felt art. Because art is a very jealous lover. It doesn't tolerate competition very well. And it's easy to focus more on the economic side and um, become deficient in the artistic side. So it's key to keep a balance.
Now, your home and studio is in Lawrenceville, Georgia. You have your works can be seen in Jamaica, China, Guatemala, and in various states within the US. Have you reached your self-actualization peak, or there is
Mhm.
more?
I hope there's more. I don't even look on the mountaintop on where I could go. I focus on the next step. I keep grounded. If I start to look on the mountaintop, my head goes up into the air, and I will trip and fall. So I focus on the next step, the next work. Sometimes it's a small, private, inconsequential work, or sometimes it's a big challenge. Um, and just enjoy that process. Um, where it takes me, I have already gone past my expectations and learned that there are no limits to what can happen. Just do it. Just do it. Mm.
Awesome. And finally, Mr. Watson, everyone's journey is different. However, what are the main tools a sculptor should have when carving their journey on the road to success?
Vision, I would say, is the main thing. You have to visualize what you want to do. I visualized very early that I wanted to do public sculpture. I wanted to sculpt a human figure, and I would love to find a way to make that as large as I possibly can. Um, so having that vision is the first step, and the answers to achieving it will come if you start to ask the questions.
Wow, this was absolutely amazing and interesting and informative. And thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to sit with us. You are a big deal, and we're absolutely proud of you. You're a Jamaican doing it globally and doing it so well. And you are so humble. It's amazing. Thank you.
I am eternally grateful to Jamaica, to all the support that I get, to my community, environment, family, and for having me on your program. I'm very grateful and enjoyed it. The hour went very quickly.
I know,
And
right? So quickly, but
it's
thank
great
you
fun.
so much.
So thank you very much.
All right. So if you're just joining us, you would have missed it, but you can always catch it on IRI FM's online platform. Big up to Rohan Johnson at Last Otrace. He says, look here, nice, interesting, and informative interview. Absolutely love it. This other person says, good interview, very inspiring. It's Dave from Fletcher's Land. Thank you so much. Of course, that's Basil Watson, CD. He is an internationally renowned sculptor who has completed major works in Jamaica, China, Guatemala, and various states within the U.S. He has done statues for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. for the city of Atlanta, Georgia, and a tribute to Jamaica national heroes with a 7-bust series. His work also includes a sculpture of the great Louise Bennett Coverley, affectionately called Miss Lou, and the country's sprint superstars Usain Bolt, Shelley and Fraser Price, and Asafa Powell, among many greats locally and internationally.
Out and shining, a smile on my face. Good morning, Mr. Obstacles. How you doing
Thank you.
today? If I am living, I have to live it up, no matter the feeling. I got to get up. If I am living, I have to live it up, no matter the feeling. I got to get up, and that's a spirit.